Hi, so today I'm going to be talking about the German invasion of Poland in September 1939, called the September Campaign in Poland. Oftentimes, it's like the first actual military campaign in World War II. So that's going to be the first thing I'm going to cover in our series, and the first part of the actual war. The Germans invade from multiple sides, from East Prussia, from the mainland, and even from like Slovakia against Poland. And then, as we all know, later the Soviet Union joins and invades as well. So today we're going to be talking about a specific part of the beginning of the Polish campaign. We're going to be talking about the Northern Front. So from East Prussia, where the Third Army, the Modlin Army fight each other, and this is going to involve areas like Moava, and areas both to the right and left of it. And probably in next episode, I'm going to be talking about the events in Pomerania and the collapse of the Polish Army. So for today, since I'm talking about the Modlin Front, I'm going to give a little bit of like a brief overview of what it is. So it involves two sides, as I said: the German Third Army, whose commander is Georg von Kugler, and the Polish side, just a Modlin Army, which is the army to north of Warsaw that is going to cover this area as defense, and it's going to be commanded by Henryk Brzezinski, who is like a pretty famous Polish general at this time. So this is an area that Poland cares about a lot, because obviously it's the closest point that the Germans can get to Warsaw, the capital, immediately. And the Germans also have a substantial amount of forces there, although definitely it's not the so-called main attack of the invasion of Poland. Of course, that's like the 10th Army and maybe the 8th and 14th along with it in Army Group South. So this is going to be like the first time that the Germans actually engage in large warfare. I mean, consider it's a huge conflict. It's 2 million German men, more or less, and then more or less 1 million Polish soldiers. So the Germans have obviously they've annexed Austria, they've annexed the Sudetenland and the rest of Czechoslovakia, and they have occupied the mainland at this point. But then Poland is where military might is actually shown for the first time in World War II. So that's the significance of the invasion of Poland. So first I'm going to start by talking about both sides, and the Polish side, front, German side is the front, the preparations made by both a little bit, and then I'm going to go over like what forces are there. So kind of think about it as like a table of contents, or in order of battle for both the sides. So as I said, Poland has one army, the Modlin Army, and it's named after the Modlin Fortress, which is a little fortress to the northeast of Warsaw, and the main defense is going to be north of it, basically at the border with East Prussia, and a main point of the conflict will be at the town of Moava. So the Modlin Army consists of the 20th Infantry Division, the 8th Infantry Division, and also 2 cavalry brigades, the Nowogródzka Cavalry Brigade, which is like to the west, and then to the east there's the Mazowiecka Cavalry Brigade. So 20th Division in the front again, 80th in the back as reserve, and then you have on the 2 flanks the cavalry brigades that are going to cover the outsides of it. And this is actually quite perfect, because the geography, the landscape of this area favors going it's pretty swampy in this area, I have to say. It's pretty swampy, the area between East Prussia and in front of Mława. So for tanks, it's probably best to go around it, either through left or right flanks. So that's why they're covered by cavalry brigades rather than infantry division, the 20th Infantry Division, which is in the center. And this is really good for Polish defense because they realize that the Germans kind of have to go around to either one of the flanks or both, or they're going to suffer heavy casualties if they want to go directly at it. And the Germans need to take Mława, of course, because that's where the main formation of defense is. So actually, there was a secret Polish mobilization in March 1939. That involved a lot of effort being brought up on all different parts of the army, and there's no exception for the Modlin Army, as the Modlin Army got a lot of construction material and some extra battalions, I think like engineer battalions or so, that they didn't have before. So they're really mobilized. So this already, like, I want to dispel the myth of the Polish army being a weak force that just got gobbled up by the Germans and then the Soviets, because that's not how it was. They were a very strong military force. Their army was, their army was stronger than Britain's at that time, which is like a lot. They've mobilized and they've spent a lot of time, money, and energy into defending the western borders as much as their east. So the Poles in the Modlin front are definitely well prepared. And since, as I said before, it's one of the fronts that they care about more, the General HQ, they're going to get more resources in the build-up. So they're going to be more well-equipped than, for example, the Polish Army, which I'm probably going to cover next episode. So the area of contact on September 1st, it's going to be the area north of Mława, and that's going to be the northern approaches to Warsaw. And the main force of the 20th Infantry Division that's defending this area of Mława, it's like a fortress, is the 78th Infantry Division and the 78th Infantry Regiment and the 80th Infantry Regiment that are on either side. The 79th Infantry Regiment's like sort of in the center, and of course also the 20th Artillery Regiment is also part of the 20th Infantry Division, and that's going to be a bit in the rear, so it's not going to be actually in the front line, because obviously it's an artillery regiment, that's what you're supposed to do with it. And in addition, also 3 infantry battalions, and both regiments of the 20th Division that were on the front, so 78th and 80th, had 2 artillery battalions each. So they're pretty well defended. They have good artillery as well, and they also share a machine gun battalion, the 2 of them. And meanwhile, the 79th Infantry Division, which is at Żegnowo, a different fortified area to the east, it's about like 10 to 15 miles east of Mława. That also has 3 infantry regiments and 2 artillery battalions, so it's also well equipped with artillery guns, although it doesn't have that many light tanks, which other parts of it might have, like little Polish tankettes. But it also has a small armored company, though. I've already talked about the 20th Infantry Division. So the 8th Infantry Division is kind of like in the reserve south of Mława, and that's a force for either potential counterattack or to help an immediate retreat south if that's if the campaign goes really that poorly for the Poles in the beginning. If on September 1st or September 2nd, they just lose the entire front, then you might need the 8th Infantry Division to support a retreat. For now, it's a reserve division in the reserve of the Modlin Army. And that's going to consist of 3 infantry regiments and 1 artillery regiment. Of course, it's the 13th Infantry Regiment, the 24th Infantry Regiment, and the 32nd Infantry Regiment, and also the 8th Artillery Regiment. All of the artillery regiments in the Polish Army, as well as the German, I think, have their naming system in terms of numbers the same thing as their division. So, for example, 8th Infantry Division, so 8th Artillery Regiment. That's how it works. And further northeast is the Narv Group. The Narv Group, by its name, you can probably guess they're trying to prevent a crossing of the Narv River. They're not going to be so active in the beginning of the war. In fact, I think September 6th is the first time they actually meet initial contact with the Germans. They're already in the front line. They're right next to East Prussia, but there are no German forces there. Only border guard companies. So they're kind of just going to sit there, do nothing really. And one can argue that perhaps the Narv operational group should have moved one of its divisions over to west, but it didn't. It just stayed there. And just to summarize what the Narv group is, its commander, the general headquarters is in Warsaw, so not actually in the front line, I believe. Actually, maybe it is. Yes, it is directly in the front line, but they report to Warsaw, to General HQ, like all the other German operational groups do. So it's not a part of the Modlin Army. It's a completely separate force to the northeast, and it's got its own commander, its own group, and it's made up of the 18th Infantry Division, the 33rd Infantry Division, the Polacka Cavalry Brigade, and the Suwalska Cavalry Brigade. So it's also got 2 infantry divisions and 2 cavalry brigades. So it has a lot of force, a lot of punch power, but it doesn't actually use it in the first few days of the war.